welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers, by gamers. I'm Barjo.
And I'm Junglist, back from Los Angeles, where I took in the sights, sounds, and experiences of the biggest game convention known to mankind, E3. That's coming up later.
Rock Band Beatles, Rock Band Beatles, Rock Band Beatles!
I couldn't remember, there's a lot of games.
We'll also be tackling two huge reviews this week with some freedom-fighting Martian Demolition and Red Faction Guerrilla.
And we'll be having the time of our simulated lives in Sims 3.
But before we get to any of that, can you guess the game for this week? Junglist, the news desk awaits!
All right, I'll just leave you here in the past.
Good game.
Brutal Legend, the latest game from Psychonauts and Grim Fandango creator Tim Schafer, is at risk of having its release delayed or even halted after game publisher Activision filed a lawsuit against Double Fine Productions in this past week.
It's time to sound the battle cry.
The game, which stars the voice talents of Jack Black as a rock and roll roadie on the highway to hell, has become the object of a dispute between the two companies. Activision was thought to have passed on the game following a merger with Brutal Legend's previous publisher Vivendi Games. However, their lawsuit claims that they still hold the publishing rights to the game. Brutal Legend has since been picked up by Electronic Arts and is planned to launch later this year. Peter Molyneux, the founder of Lionhead Studios, is reported to have been given a significant new promotion by his employers Microsoft. Molyneux, who is the creative force behind games like Fable 2, is reported to have accepted the role of creative director of Microsoft's Europe-based game development houses, including the likes of Rare and other European developers, along with maintaining control of his own company, Lionhead Studios.
Good game.
From the developers of Saints Row 2 comes Red Faction Guerrilla. It's been a long time between space drinks for the franchise, and now it's time to get your ass to Mars.
Mars, the Red Planet. You play as Alec Mason and have to get your ass to Mars to join your brother and become a miner. Within minutes, you realize that the EDF, or Brown Master Chief Brigade, are evil and are turning the planet into a slave colony. In fact, it's pretty much forced down your throat. After your brother is murdered, you drink a cup of Insta-Terrorist and set about restoring power to the people on the planet.
Your transition into terrorism is pretty fast. There's no great moral debate, you don't climb a ladder or anything like that, but all of a sudden you are the Red Faction's only hope, so you just go for it and start blowing stuff up. And that's the great thing about this game. It's all about blowing stuff up. Everything in the world is destructible except for the planet itself, and it's not that skeleton still stands destructible like Battlefield Bad Company. This is full-on destructible.
It's hammer time, and there's very little slowdown at all. Combat has this fantastic subtle auto aim that gently guides you towards your enemy, and a very satisfying melee. The Mars-like soundtrack is straight out of Total Recall.
Cole Hagen!
Jung, we can't do Arnie impersonations every episode. We have to give the people time to get some air. The music really would have been better if it was something like Bob Dylan, some revolutionary kind of stuff. But anyway, missions are pretty varied, and one of the most fun was actually busting out captured Red Faction members.
I'm here to help.
And this requires you to sneak in from behind, bash out a door, and lead them to safety. They are quite hard at times, though.
Often you'll be holding off against waves and waves of EDF soldiers, and this is usually fun, especially when you get a mech.
Tanks are down. We're all clear.
But it does kind of grate against you when they never stop coming, because you don't really feel like a hero when you keep on having to retreat to regen your health. When your health gets low, the controller will rumble like a heartbeat, which is a nice touch, and at times rolling across the red planet can be quite beautiful. There's also a cover system, which is quite functional, but you don't use it much because enemies usually come from all directions, flanking you. It's much easier to bash a hole through a wall and then hide. Watching buildings crumble around you never gets old. There are demolition missions that require you to strategically place explosives to take a building down, or baseball bat red barrels off into the distance.
This is one of the fastest ways to gather scrap metal, which is called salvage, and you use this to unlock new gear and upgrade your current gear and get stuff like the jetpack, which took way too long to unlock by our reckoning. The wall-ignoring railgun is great fun because you can actually shoot an enemy while they're still in a vehicle and then hijack that vehicle for yourself.
Dead, Sam.
Junk, I felt like I was a kid playing with my toys in the dirt, you know. I had a smile on my face the whole way through this game.
Yeah, it is a bit like that, but you do see the limitations of the open world pretty quickly, whereas most open world games keep on surprising you for ages. But it is still great fun, especially when you hop in the buggies.
Whee! Space buggies.
There is a lot of driving, and often you're sent out on long treks with a time limit for no real reason other than to extend gameplay. At least no one cares if you steal their cars. Traveling can get a bit dull, though, especially if you've hit a tough mission with bad checkpoints.
I don't understand, Jung, why everyone else gets to toot their horn except me. That was just me. The mechs are definitely the most fun to hop about in, and when you take out a strategic target, it actually removes some enemy presence in the area.
That's the last core.
The comments characters say as you walk past them are a bit cheesy at times, and they do kind of sound like they're only talking to themselves.
Convoy just popped up on radar. Looks to be headed for the Badlands outpost.
There's also one in particular that has an absurdly toffee British accent.
Good. Load it into that console. That's not funny.
We haven't spent heaps of time online, but the different jetpacks are so much fun, it's worth hopping on just for that. In fact, we didn't even use many weapons. It's just too much fun using the jetpacks to go through roofs and walls.
The single-player campaign is about 10 hours long, but it's much more fun to do all the side missions first, beef up your gear, and then go in for the story ones. Jung, final thoughts?
8.5 rubber chickens.
The game is one giant red barrel, and even though it's a one-trick pony, the trick is really good. I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens. Now, Jung, tell me about E3.
Good game.
Every year, the gaming press descends upon Los Angeles for the game fest that is E3. So, of course, Good Game came along for the action. Nearly all the publishers have their wares on show, so we'll be playing a lot of them and speaking to the brains behind many of them. Wish me luck.
It's this love of cars that drove my team to create the definitive racing game of this generation. But as the definitive racing game of this generation, we deliver more, much more.
The future of games and entertainment is happening now.
We've done it before, it's just doing it bigger and better.
Push Modern Warfare 2 to the next level.
It really takes the whole LEGO Indie experience to the next level.
We're committed to excellence, and we'll take it to the next level.
The highest rated racing game of this generation.
That's a really good point, Jeremy.
Today, please look for the first time at the Wii Vitality Sensor.
I mean, I love being able to follow my friends and send my own tweets no matter where I am.
I know it might be hard, but can you describe what it's like on Expert?
That is a good stumping question, isn't it?
Really push the PlayStation 3 as far as it can go.
Pathetic. Look at you.
Thank you.
And of course, you can attribute all of this to EA Sports Active.
Absolutely. It's been unbelievable.
You're going to just lay down a little extra texture on there, and if it gets some light brown. Okay, so here we go. All right, so there's our elephant.
Good game.
So that's all the meh press release stuff, but did you see anything good?
Oh, did I?
Did you?
Yeah.
Show me!
We also have a lot of character interaction mechanics, so you might have noticed in our demo that characters will look at you and talk to you and give you information about what's going on in the world. just one of the many ways we're trying to, pull players into this immersive setting. So the Drama Engine is a piece of technology we developed. It's kind of an umbrella for a different number of features that allow us to do high-intensity scripted events in a more dynamic fashion. So an example would be, if you have an enemy vehicle that's coming towards you and you blow it up with a rocket launcher, for example, then that flaming wreck is going to be coming at you.
So iPad is a brand new game for PlayStation 3. It uses a PlayStation Eye, so you point the camera down at your floor, and then we magically bring out a virtual magical pet in your living room. And so the pet comes to life, and you can interact with him the same way you'd interact with a real pet. So you can play with him, you can stroke him, you can touch him, tickle him. We're all about really making a pet game, not a simulation, and about positive reinforcement. So the pet doesn't pass away, he doesn't run away, but he does get sad if you don't spend too much time with him.
Insult sword fighting is exactly the same. That was actually one of my favorite parts to record because we got to record all the responses and calls and things. We were in the studio with Dominic Armato, who's back as Guybrush Threepwood. And if someone says, "You fight like a dairy farmer," and your response is, "How appropriate! You fight like a cow." He says it all confidently. Well, we had this idea where if someone says a different insult, and you don't know the answer to it, and you choose "how appropriate you fight like a cow," which is obviously the wrong answer, Guybrush will actually go, "How appropriate you fight like a cow?"
Have you done the voice for every single Mario game?
Since 1996, Mario 64, Super Mario 64 was the first one that Mario had a voice in, and I've done all the games since then, yeah. Mamma mia, it's a fun. There's a Mario, and a Wario, and a Rotten Day, and a Luigi, and Luigi, everybody cheated but me, and baby Luigi, and baby Mario too. Wahoo!
All right, Banjo, this one's for you, Rock Band Beatles.
Baby's good to me, she's happy as can be, she said so.
Paul and Ringo, as well as Olivia and Yoko, have been sort of creative partners through the whole project. They've been, reviewing the song selection, the venues we go to. When we do these things called dreamscapes, which are these cool sort of psychedelic visions of the songs from the studio years. They looked at storyboards. They give us feedback on where to take things. They give us feedback on the animation and making everyone look like the spirit of the Beatles was really up there on screen. It was a really exciting and a slightly scary experience to be able to directly work with them on stuff.
What do you have in the game for the more hardcore thrasher?
I think with vocal harmonies alone, if you playing and harmonizing at the same time is an incredible challenge. If you take an instrument up to a certain level of difficulty, take vocals up to that, to expert difficulty, it's a mind bender. It's like, rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time while singing and playing at the same time.
Cliff, we hear that you were very upset about the Gears of War 2 review.
It's one of those things that, you mess with me once, okay, mess with me twice, shame on me. And I just want to say that I know where you sleep.
I don't know if you're familiar with the GDC, the rant that someone said the industry is a bunch of adolescents and we all need to grow up. What are your thoughts on that?
I think in some ways the gaming industry does need to grow up and have games that take on far more serious subjects. There's games that pass as mature just because they're immature, actually. But at the same time, sometimes that kind of stuff can be fun.
To make fear or to make sadness, but to make the player laugh, it's very, 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 very hard. We try and try again. Oh no, that's not funny. So we change it. It's very hard to be funny. Other people think that, you work on a funny game, you probably laugh all the day. Not at all.
Who said anything about hiding?
Well, there's a lot of inspirations, right? Of course, the three JBs, James Bond, Jason Bourne, Jack Bauer, they're all great inspirations for us. Usually stealth games, they're slow, they force the stealth down your throat, right? And we want to do the opposite. We want to make stealth something that players, they really want to enjoy, they want to use because it's a tool, it makes them feel like a predator.
From the beginning, we always saw the video game as part of the process.
We were building digital assets from the get-go that we wanted to share with our video game developer, and we wanted to have a collaborative relationship back and forth. I think what happens in gaming oftentimes is they lose sight of a core key component of narrative storytelling, which is the emotional core. I think they get caught up in other things, and they don't make it about themes. Themes to me are the emotions with which you leave movies or you walk away from games. And when games or movies work, I think they have themes that go beyond the genre of their game or go beyond the genre of their movie.
How did you get the idea for a game where you just write words?
Actually, half of it came to me in a dream. You believe it or not. It's actually two different game ideas. One was a puzzle game idea where you'd be in a room and you'd have to like scale a fish or something to find like a goal. Like that was this is really strange, and that was part of my dream. And the other was more of a, what if you could write like a story, like the dog walks in the forest and that would all populate. And so the problem with the story game is that there wasn't a lot of gameplay in that. But when you combine the idea with like there's a puzzle and there's something you have to solve, and then you take the idea of writing and put it together, it made sense. So that we literally can write like anything that exists. If it's an object, it's not copyrighted, you can write it.
Dude, you got a kid excited about writing.
That's true.
One of my goals in this game was to defeat the waggle. This sort of style gameplay on the Wii. And I think we've done it because when you see people playing, really what you see is you see people sweeping in these wide arcs. This is really how the game is meant to be played, is this way. A lot of people start by doing this sort of thing. This is sort of how they think about it because they've been playing on the Wii for so long, just pointing at the screen like, no. It's a sword. It's a sword now, just swing it like this, pretend it's you and whack.
But it's the sequel with the same team, same engine. Just like we know what we're doing. We've done it before. It's just doing it bigger and better. I like open worlds myself. I like to play, like to have this sense of having a toy, not only a game, but sometimes being elsewhere than only in the game or the narrative. And that's really, really, really fun to play with systems instead of playing with like rules. So I couldn't go back to more linear, but that doesn't mean that they're not fun. But I just couldn't go back there.
One of the biggest announcements so far this year is Project Natal. Let's go find out some more about it from the man who should know, the guy who runs Xbox.
This is really about inviting everyone to enjoy games and entertainment for the very first time. It's controller-free entertainment. When you see a ball coming at you on the screen, you can actually catch it. You can throw it, you can kick it.
This is one of my big dreams, man. I mean, if we could really create a character that felt real, just imagine what we could do. Just imagine the emotions that we could get to, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Should we be trying to find a new word for game because it doesn't really seem appropriate for the whole Milo experience?
Yeah, you're right. The thing is that the trouble is with game, it kind of is one word that tries to encapsulate all of it, and all of it is changing so fast. Is Milo an experience? It is a game. It's got a score. It's got a story. But I think the word game will put a lot of people off.
Are we going to have to teach these newcomers the language of gaming all over again?
Well, here's the thing about that. This is what I find so fascinating. The whole thing, and if you were to come in, and I'm going to try and get you into the Milo demo next, I don't want to teach you anything, man. I just want you to use your body, your hands, your face, your smile, your frown, your voice in the way you do in your life. And if I can do that, I don't have to teach you anything.
Well, E3 is over. Just like to say a big thanks to all the developers that took the time out to speak to us at this year's E3. Badge, we're going to have a busy 6 months. Let's get to it.
Did you actually get a go of it?
Yeah, I did. It was unfortunate that we couldn't bring the cameras in there, but, it is smoke and mirrors. It's not, like a genuine conversation with a human being. But like Peter Molyneux was saying, he's not trying to really create a real person. He's trying to create the feeling of inspiring someone. That's the goal of the game.
Was it responsive? Did you react to what was going on?
Yeah, I tried to scare it. I went, boo! And there was no reaction. And then I did it again louder, boo! And he went, oh, I'm listening. And then I shared a joke with him. I said, you know, hey, I'm used to controlling people like you with sticks. And it kind of sensed that my voice went up at the end of the sentence, and it could also sense that I was smiling. So Milo looked directly at the camera and smiled. He knew it was a joke, so that was a bit of a moment.
A little bit creepy as well.
A little bit.
Good game. Good game.
The Sims 3 is one of the most anticipated games of the year, promising to refresh the series. So, John, let's start a family.
Okay, but only if I get to wear a fancy hat.
How fancy?
Top hat fancy?
You got it.
The biggest evolution for the game is that it's all kind of live, with no loading, which is something that Sims fans have wanted for a long time. The console versions of the game were especially bad at making you wait, but now you can zoom in from a big wide view of the map all the way down to your individual sim with no delay, and switching between your sims is effortless.
In this new Sims, you can have a baby and watch them grow up, but managing a baby sim really isn't that much fun, and before long we palmed our little peanuts off to the neighbours. But one thing you do notice is that the Sims are actually much better at taking care of themselves now, which is great.
Yeah, they'll go to the toilet on their own. They'll eat if they're hungry. They'll even cheer themselves up if they're in a bad mood. Overall, the developers clearly concentrated less on the mundane micromanagement side of things and more on the building side of things, the interactions of your Sims, and their goals.
If you're a gamer who likes a game you can finish, you now have lifetime goals which you can try and achieve. I made Bajo a kleptomaniac who's a computer whiz and quite inappropriate at times. And his choice of life goals were DNA profiler, super spy, and for some strange reason, creature robot crossbreeder.
And what did you make me into, Badge? My guy was doing some weird stuff.
Well, I did make you insane, neurotic, and evil, Joan. So your lifetime goals were Gold Digger, Emperor of Evil, and Thief. And for some reason, creature robot crossbreeder.
Well, we didn't achieve our lifetime goals, but we did have some fun and one heck of a party. Making friends is tough at first, but you unlock tricks to do it quicker by completing your Sims' mini wishes. What you do has a ripple effect in the community, so what you say to one person might affect how they act later on to someone else. Understandably, it was hard to see all this play out entirely, but we're told it happens and that's cool.
Depending on what you do for a crust, you'll be given job opportunities as well, and these are kind of like side quests. It might be to attend a chess tournament or maybe question someone and write a report. But in tune with the open nature of the game, you don't have to do any of these side missions or even do what your sim wants, but you will pay the price for your inaction.
There's some improvements to the character animations, and the models look better as well. In the older Sims, when you'd have to wait for ages for an animation to complete, usually you'd fast forward time. Here it's not so much the case, but there is a very handy move straight to the end of an animation button.
This is kind of a game that you don't want to play in one big sitting, you know? You go away, you play a little bit, you tinker around with a toilet. It's a tinkering kind of game, and I think it's easy for us hardcore gamers to poo-poo The Sims, but you can't deny that it's incredibly popular and successful, and I found myself getting drawn back into it. You know, it was dark outside when I'd finished, and the hunger of my sim was more important than my own.
Playing The Sims 3 is like a never-ending to-do list. It's all optional, and that's a good thing. There's heaps of variety, from attending classes to improve your skills, to just bumbling around the house playing video games and even trolling forums.
It did strike us that we were watching a recreation of ourselves playing a video game in a video game, and then we captured that and watched it all again later as a video. As your sim ages, they'll crave different things, and you can turn aging off, but Jung, you know, I kind of expected more evolution for the game. I mean, the cars, they all kind of drive on tracks and pass through civilians, and there's pretty terrible pathfinding at times that still kind of hasn't been fixed. I expected a less clunky sandbox with better pathfinding.
Yeah, and it's a bit worrying that you need a decent PC to play it. I mean, you could argue that Sims players aren't used to needing such a good PC. I guess it's a trade-off to have that much variety and detail in the objects and being able to zoom in and out without any loading at all.
The most impressive part of this game, I think, are the online features. You can capture any video in-game, upload it online, and then they've got this online editor where you can trim, add transitions, audio, captions, and it's all very smooth and fantastic.
The EA Online Store has plenty of extras that you can get with microtransactions. Also, there's a lot of community content available, and first I'd check out the modding community to see what they have.
The Sims 3 has everything a Sims fan will want, and whether it will attract a new crowd to the franchise, I don't know. I did enjoy my time with it, but it just fell a little short of remarkable. I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I've never really been a Sims guy, but it's easy to see they're giving the fans what they want. Also, learning the keyboard shortcuts makes the game 10 times more fun. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
So did you guess the game for this week?
Of course I did. It was Wrecking Crew for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was a platform action game that saw you smashing stuff up with a big hammer in around 100 levels of brick-bashing gameplay.
Wrecking Crew came out all the way back in 1985 and is most notable because it was one of the weirdest games ever to star Nintendo's mascot Mario, who, despite being a plumber by trade, easily adapted to a career in demolitions just to play the lead role in the game.
We'll be bringing you more of our E3 interviews over the next couple of months as the games come out. Next week, we'll show you we ain't afraid of no ghosts.
We also take a swing at Bionic Commando, the latest retro classic to be remade for a new generation.
And Ray takes a closer look at casual games and why the games industry is so in love with them.
Don't forget to jump on the forums and let us know what you thought of this week's show. We'll see you next week at the same time. Until then, Budjo out.
Junglist out.
Jung, how do you feel about being the definitive gaming show for this generation?
I think we should take it to the next level.